It's Wednesday today. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Talking Crap Season 1. My name is Jay, I'm one of the hosts. The other host is...
Me? Hi, I always mess this up. John Holland. Ho 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 Holland. It feels be all festive and Christmassy. So
Or is it John Holland?
it should be ha 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 Holland. Yeah.
Ho 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 Holland. Welcome everybody. Thanks. Oh look, people joining in now. Hello and welcome. We are here on a Wednesday or Wednesday. And we are streaming over 3 platforms today. We are streaming over my Facebook. Hello, everybody, friends there. The Casino Industry Canada page. Welcome, everybody across the country. And the Casino Dealer J YouTube channel. So hello, everybody there. Thanks for subscribing. You are good looking. So today, we have a special guest. I think she's still getting ready. And we also have Mike coming on. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. And what? No, maybe what? Oh, okay. All right, she's ready. Love this the green room effect here. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Danielle Anderson. Hello.
Hey guys. Hi. How are you guys?
Really good. How are you doing? Are you on your phone or are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm still
okay.
on my phone. I'm trying to figure this out. It says couldn't find camera, but I don't know what that means. So I'm like the worst tech person in the world. I use Siri for everything. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining the channel. Yeah, just get yourself set up over there. Make sure you're good to go because you're here for the long haul. So we also have
of course.
guys, as always, if you want to make your comments, just make sure you log into your StreamYard if you are joining from the Casino Industry Canada page. And just allow the name so that we can show your names when you're doing the comments. So if you're online, just say hi, tell us where you're from. Come on and check in, and you can razz Mike too because he's going to be coming on soon as well. So,
Yeah, Mikey likes it.
He likes that stuff. Yeah, he likes the photos of him wearing bikini tops, and he likes being razzed.
Stories,
yeah,
anything. Oh, he's all in.
All right. As always. Oh, hello! Look at this. Hello, Nicole from South Surrey.
Surrey.
BC represent.
Hey.
She will be on for the Blackjack 8-minute battle, by the way. So she's the next person up. Hopefully, we'll take down Mike's top score there. Okay, Danielle.
Who do I have to beat for this pie gouge challenge?
Okay. We'll get there. We'll start talking about that really soon. Are you all set up? You're all ready to go there? You're comfortable?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, good. So let's put you on the hot seat right away then. Danielle, can you just tell us where you're from? Give us a little rundown of your casino experience, where you're working. If you are working somewhere now, that would be great. And we'll start there.
Yeah. So I'm from Calgary, Alberta, born and raised. I actually started in the industry when I was 18. And now it's been 4 years. I started working at like the Stampede Casino there, and I worked there for a year and a half. And then from there, I moved to Pure Canadian Gaming. And yeah, so now I'm like an all games dealer, and I PIPA sometimes, and I really love my job, I guess. Yeah.
That is, it's so cool. It is really cool to hear that. I also work for Pure Canadian Gaming.
So, I know.
Yeah, so sister casino. So I guess we're cousin dealers, basically. So that's pretty cool.
For sure, definitely. It's been like quite different recently, though, obviously, with COVID, and like all the restrictions and what you can and cannot do. But
Right.
yeah,
So can you kind of let
you
us
know,
know? Can you let us know how it was the first time coming back? Because I know like we had that close down, and um, they did start opening slots. Well, they did here for our property,
yeah.
and then after they did start to bring the dealers in, um, and then we'll get to kind of what just happened not that long ago. But how was it just going back to work at that time and in that period? Um, because the way like your cases were in Calgary, they were a little different than they are now. So
Yeah. I mean, it was okay. I think some dealers were a little bit more nervous than others. I was really quite excited to come back and see how see all the measures being put into place. Like obviously, it's mandatory to wear a mask. Like we're only allowed so many people in the break room, like in like the smoking pit. Everybody's social distance, and we were quite strict about about the mask wearing for guests and all the plexiglass barriers. Something that's been pretty hard though is like some of the dealers are a little bit more or less comfortable with like people not wearing the masks when they're actually playing the game, even though there's plexiglass. Um, so it's a little bit hard like to go and try to enforce the bylaws, but also respect like people's health um,
mhm,
conditions and stuff.
yeah,
So yeah.
How was the players reacted to these new changes?
Some of them are quite nice about it. Some of them are also still like concerned and like they you can tell when they're really keeping like their distance from people. But others others really hate it, right? Like especially when you're trying to get a seat on a game and like there's only limited seating now, and yeah, like some people are a little bit frustrated. We have a lot of wait lists now, and but yeah, I mean people still like try to back bet and play with their friends and do stuff like that, but it's a little bit difficult now. And yeah, and like there's a lot more like call betting and stuff for like especially on like roulette or like those other kind of games where people can't reach, but
mhm,
you still have to. So yeah, because and our casino is a little different than other casinos in Calgary. Like I've seen places where the roulette doesn't have the plexiglass, just the dealers are wearing a face shield.
Mhm.
But our casino has four four seats on roulette now. So yeah.
wow.
I don't know. Is it different in Edmonton? Like I know we're sister casinos, but like we do things like a little bit differently, right? Like we still have our Pai Gow open.
Yeah.
And
So before what just happened, they did have um, they didn't have craps open or Pagao tiles open, but they did open poker, which was actually surprising. I didn't think that they were going to do that, but they were doing pretty well with that when they did the reopening. So it was limited.
yeah.
We had the plexi everywhere as well. Well, like I said, I didn't go back because they didn't really need me. I was very casual at the time, so they
Hmm.
didn't bring out craps or Pagao tiles. So it was just there was high limit, there's blackjack. We have two roulette tables, just two roulette tables, and then the poker room. The poker room was
Yeah.
probably the most. They had the most activity out of all of them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Our poker room was wild. Like it's I thought like we were gonna do like every second table open, but yeah, no, like it was really busy. And like during once we reopened, I actually started doing some like just poker shifts. Like I was started at 11:30 p.m. and worked until they didn't need me, which was like 10:30 a.m.
hmm
Like 4 days a week. So yeah, it was quite different. And poker is like the last game that I learned, but it's I don't know. I actually kind of like the night shifts, and yeah, it was so busy. Like a lot of the time, we have like 10 tables total in the poker room, but we would have like at least like 6 games open most of the time.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah.
So can I just go back to Roulette? When you said you a lot of call bets, do you have the racetrack? Like for call bets and neighbors? Is that something that you have in Calgary?
No, we
So-
don't have the racetrack. I don't even know how to use that because I don't think anywhere in Calgary has it. I don't think. At least nowhere I've
Yeah.
been.
I don't think I've seen it. I mean, it's a fun way to
Do you know,
play,
Jay?
and I mean, yeah, I don't think I've seen anywhere in Calgary. Like, it's been a few years since I was in Calgary and in gambling, and I don't think I saw it there. It was just kind of because it's realistically, it's a way to play where you wouldn't have. There's no chips involved and stuff like that. I mean, I was just wondering if players are adapting how they play because like you said, okay, there's more call bets. Like, are they throwing in and saying, okay, I'd like $5 here, $5 there, $5 there, while the ball's spinning, or is it to just throw the money in and just manually tell you, okay, can you do this before this ball?
So our casino has like this house rule where once the ball's in motion, there's not supposed to be any more call bets.
Oh, okay.
So the game is really quite. It's a little bit slower now than it used to be, definitely because of that, right? So like once ball's in motion, eyes are just on the layout. Like the dealers aren't supposed to take any more call bets. So it's always before that, and because like the people who are on the end, there's plexiglass. Like they're not supposed to be walking around like to other places. Like other people can't touch each other's chips, which is all normal, right? Like technically you're not supposed to do that anyways, but it's you definitely can't reach as far with plexiglass there. But yeah, so it's definitely a lot, and like every single person wants so many call bets. The game is a little bit slower now, for sure. But and yeah, like I find like because of that, I think people do play differently. Like they play more, like they play larger on the numbers that are closer to them.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
For convenience, I suppose.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
I'll just bet these ones.
Yeah, the convenience. Exactly. They're like, well, I guess I'll just play like all my chips around, like in the third dozen.
But it would be weird though. I mean, like you might get people who wanted to kind of like only get one seat, so they could go, oh well, I need to bet 8. 8's my number. If I'm sitting at the other end of the table, I can't reach 8. I don't want to play. I'll just wait. Like you'd sit and just wait for somebody to leave that spot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like I find sometimes like people get a little frustrated, right? Because like it's like you want it to be a little bit faster, right? Like roulette's already kind of slow with like all the buy-ins and everybody like that, and now like there's no outside bets allowed. Same with box, so people can't just come up and throw their money on like red or black for one spin. They have to have a seat.
Wow.
So it's definitely a little difficult.
So you only the people sitting at the
as
table
a dealer,
can
like
play?
if you see someone coming, yes.
Wow.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's a little hard, right? And like it's hard as like a dealer, like when you see like someone come up and like they want to play like either like $100 or whatever on red black or wherever they want to play it, and like they hand it to somebody at the table to play it for them. You're really not supposed to let them do that.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, like it's a little bit confusing in my head because I'm like, if they're okay with it, then like why wouldn't I be? It's hard. It's definitely hard.
Yeah, I think you're at a different. It's just a lot different, just given the fact that you have to kind of abide by some new rules and just the way that this pandemic is kind of playing out.
For sure.
Unfortunately, it didn't really help too much with all the cases that kind of came up. They've shut down again. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Like, should that have happened in your opinion? I don't know how you feel about it, but that second shutdown, like, how did it affect you when you were over there?
Personally, I was like, really upset. I'm not gonna lie. Especially like as someone who like actually enjoys going to work, like for my 5 days a week. Like I really enjoy seeing everybody, and I feel like we did a lot to like help make everybody feel comfortable, and I feel like we did everything we had to do, and like most of the cases are from like family gatherings and stuff like that. You know, like everybody there is pretty respectful of other people, and we do try our best. I mean, I don't think it necessarily had to happen, but a lot of other people at my casino said it did. So I'm trying to like also be respectful of other people and what they think is like right. It's a very touchy situation, um, especially since like we do have quite a bit of older people who play,
Right.
and like they don't really want to, I don't want to put other people at risk either.
Yep. Nope. Understood.
Yeah. So yeah, it's hard for me, and like I'm sure a lot of other people it's also hard. But I mean, if we can shut down for 3 weeks and then have everything be a lot better, then I would rather do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, hopefully things will change, and the casinos can open up again, and like the tables anyway. We know the slots are open. Hopefully that because I think it's a challenge for the people who work there, like yourselves, right? I mean, it's to all of a sudden you're not working again, and then you've got that loss
Yeah.
of income for everybody, right? It's just a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Couple comments here.
Yeah. I mean, the first shutdown was really hard because it was just so long.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
Yep.
Can you guys still hear me?
Trying to hear you. No. It's like foil. I hear foil. I always say foil. Does Alberta have touch bet roulette terminals linked to a live wheel? Yes. Yes, we do.
Don't they have it in the Palace Casino? Is that something different? Remember when you first, what used to be called the Palace Casino? Was it like Starlight now or something?
Yeah. They have sorry. Let's see, you're okay. Danielle stole. They did have touch bet. They had that party pit style thing, right? I think that's yeah. They also had the actual one as well. I think it was Revolution. So there's two different kinds of roulette there, where it was a live wheel and you could actually bet on terminals. So Yellowhead did as well, and then Argyle did. So we do have that. How are you doing there, Danielle? Oh, okay. I just muted her.
I must say though, at 22 to be an all-game stealer, by the time I left, I wasn't an all-game stealer.
I mean, that's different, John. It's by choice. I mean, we already talked about like kind of how you progressed, and like you already knew craps, which was probably like one of the most important games. So for them to take you off of craps, like you were already a box. So when do you actually have time to pick up the rest of the games?
Yeah, because to be honest, I mean, I learned Pygo. I thought Pygo was a cool game. I knew Baccarat, and I was like, but I just found it really boring. I was like, I don't want to deal it, especially like, without the big table with other players. I'm like, oh, this seems boring. And all the donkey tables, I'm like, I don't want to deal those. So Danielle was way ahead of me for the most part.
You doing all right? Oh, okay. Okay. See, I just muted her. This is awesome. Okay.
Oh.
Sorry, I muted you. I didn't know you were okay. Are you okay now? Little delay.
Yeah. It's just my phone is really bad.
Okay. Did you like you can
to
reset and then just jump back in if you want. Just getting a little feedback there.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Loretta.
Hi, how's it going? Um, Starlight does. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah. Um, I think we've had this for a while actually, the touch bet roulette. And they also had I remember downtown because downtown had it as well, and then they had the actual like baccarat machine
Mhm.
with the virtual dealer that was just telling you, what to do or make your
Oh,
bets
like
and
that.
whatnot.
Oh, like that big video game thing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
like remember those blackjack ones from
Yeah,
before where it's like
I remember
they
the
had the
blackjack one.
they had the female dealer in like a bikini, like it made no sense at all, and it's like okay.
Yeah, it was so cheesy. It was like, what is going on here? This doesn't make any sense at all.
It's
But you played
so
it anyway. Like, oh, I'll play it because I just want to see what it's like. And this is the dumbest thing ever. And I just lost. So
yeah. I've never been successful. I remember they had the craps though, and every time they had the bubble craps come in, like they took it out. And I think like I was hearing stories about people like making a ton of money off of it. So I think
what?
it yeah, I think it kind of freaked them out. There's someone that made like a few $1,000s off of the game because like the game wouldn't seven out at all. Like it was incredible.
Man, I need to play that game. I never won on craps. Well, I think I
Oh,
won once ever.
oh yeah, I can count the well. My God, like we just for those of you that don't know, John and I were actually on a show for Heather's site, and we were talking about casino stories. And while you were kind of saying your stories, and I was listening to the stories, I was saying my stories. I was just like, oh my God, like my stories are okay, but you should really hear the ones about like when I was playing because they're the most ridiculous ones. And I'm not even talking about like the bad beats or anything like that, but yeah, I mean like it's in the past. I was a terrible player. I could never make any money. I think there was one, and I'll admit to this because people remember it and they always bring it up just to like, you know, see what my full reaction was. But I remember training a craps class and then going to the casino and losing my whole paycheck. Like I got paid and I went to craps and I think I was trying to teach a couple people and I ended up losing my whole paycheck like that one day and I was just like, oh my God, this is the most embarrassing thing as a
The best,
player. Yeah.
the best one I ever had. It was teaching. I was teaching. The only time I taught craps in the palace, and I remember it was my birthday, and I'm like, let's get out early, because let's go out early. I want to go party, whatever. And I had a 45-minute roll, didn't seven out, and went, I don't want to do this anymore. It was crazy. I'm like, what? Couldn't seven out. By that point, I'd maxed out every single bet. It started from $100. I'd maxed out every single bet. It's unrealistic, but I'd maxed out everything. And I was like, stupid. I was even calling it and throwing them. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm done. It was like a 45-minute roll. And I never ever had it. And I never made best roll in my entire life. And I never made $1 off it.
That is funny. I remember one time I was at Baccarat, and I was trying to save this story for like Kevin because I don't know if Kevin will jump on one day, but I remember when he was there, and I ended up being like the last shooter, and I think I went to like a club downtown, so I was there with one friend of mine, and then we ended up going, and I was so hammered, and I shouldn't have been playing, and they let me play because they knew who I was, like casino wise. And I ended up being the last shooter, and I actually went past like threshold, which was really cool. So then I think there was like 5 minutes left from like when they called it, and it was so bad that they were passing me the dice, and like I'll show you like with these big dice. When they were passing the dice with the stick, I couldn't even like grab them, so they were passing me every time. It was so embarrassing. I had a super hot roll, and then I went with like 3 minutes left. I went to the baccarat table, and I bet all of my chips. And I don't even remember, like it was a lot of money though. And I bet it, and then the next thing I remember, I was sitting in the car with no money. So I don't even remember what I bet. I'm sure I lost, or my friend took my money. But I'm just sitting in the car, like I just like came to and like what's going on. And the sun was coming out, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened?
Hopefully you won, and it was the best tip ever. You're like,
Yeah, probably.
That dealer will be telling that story all day.
That is so bad. Well, look who's on. Wow. I'm just looking at that photo. Wow, that's nice. It's a nice ride there, buddy.
That could be today.
Maybe. It's pretty nice outside. All right. Waste of space. Nobody plays a touch bat. AGLC banked on it being so popular. I've never seen more than 2 players in the play. I mean, I don't know. I liked it because I didn't have to talk to anybody. So that's the one thing I like about it. It's like I can just have a beer and just like not talk to anybody.
It was weird when I first walked into the Starlight when they had that thing. Like there was like a stage and it was like a roulette guy and I was like, and there's all the other like players down. I was like, that would be so weird. It's more like you're on a stage performing than actually dealing to people, right? You'd be like, this is the strangest thing ever, because you'd be like, oh look, there's that guy over there, like 50 feet away, and it was just
That is so bad. Oh wow.
And there's chaos going on in my house. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, that's fine. It's like I had 2 dogs that were barking. And yeah, it's been nice and quiet now.
Oh, we need to still watch Dallas. Oops, sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Tahoe Casino. That's pretty funny. Pretty good with $5.
That's very impressive. To be honest, I thought he was going to end up like, he had no money left. He sold his blood. He managed to get $5 as a buy-in. But that might be in between the lines where,
Oh yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Well, while we're waiting for Danielle to jump back in, she's having some technical difficulties. We will be having a roulette battle. Oh, I have to hide Daryl's. Figure out a roulette payout. Cool. Oh, look, Galveston.
That was Galveston.
Okay. All right. I believe our guest is back. Hello.
Hey.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Danielle.
Is that better for you?
Yeah, is it better for you?
Yeah. You're sounding clear there. Is this your phone or? It's got to be your phone. Looks like okay.
So,
All right,
Danielle,
cool.
I have a quick question. Well, before I ask the question, I have a comment. I'm super impressed that you don't all game theater at 22, by the way. I think that's awesome. But my question is, now that you know all the games, which is your favorite game?
I definitely, it's probably Pie Gal for sure. But like, I also really enjoy Omaha right now, if I'm in the poker room for sure. But Pie Gal, like, because we only table, so it's like all the time. If I could, I definitely think I would though. Yeah, for sure. Sure.
For sure.
Even with the crap, I prefer. Yeah.
Mm. Sorry, Daniel, you're cutting out a little bit. So you're missing out a little bit of that. You're just cutting in and out. Did you freeze again? Are you standing really still?
I remember one of the challenges, like when you get an experience, when you become experienced and you're good at 1 or 2 games, whatever, it becomes a bit of an ego thing to go like, oh, I have to go be a trainee again, be a lumpy again. And you go from being like, oh, I'm good at this. And you go on another game and go, man, I'm terrible. Like when I've been in the business a long time and I learned Pie Go and I was like, oh man, I go on here and I'm like, I thought it was a cool game. and it's surrounded by like cool people, and I like them. And I was like, I would deal, and Tobe was like, I'm like, how am I doing, Tobe? He's like, good, good, good. And in my head, I'm like, no, I'm not. So it's kind of like an ego dent, you know what I mean? Like where you're like, oh, you're like, your confidence takes a bit of a hit when you go from, and I think maybe that has some of a reason why people don't like become all game stealers, especially like the longer you do it, you're like, oh, it's like a lost opportunity, right? You're like, okay, I've dealt it. Do I want to go back to becoming, a lumpy again and get embarrassed and players making fun of me and dealers making, and like the pit bosses come over to you and watch you. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, Kat, look at him. Look how bad he is on this game. It's kind of a bit of an ego kick when you become like a trainee again, right?
Yeah, I guess so. In that sense, like I remember, you talked about roulette being like the first game you learned. It was the last game that I learned, and I never felt completely comfortable with it for a long time. And like right after I learned it, like I went on the ships, so it wasn't really like I had some good teachers like Quan and Shane were my teachers, so they were really great, and it wasn't that part. It was just getting comfortable with the game. So I felt really dumb, and it was like really tough to kind of kick that. And then you go on the ships, and then like you see some of the European dealers deal, and you know how like the pace of the game is. It's like completely different. And then the whole thing about spinning the ball both ways, man, that got me so bad. And I definitely felt like a lumpy, just because of that. So, but I think when we do something like, you know, my question then, let me just ask you the question: if you weren't boxing, would you have done it? Like if you did it, if you knew you're still working in a palace for 5 more years, would you have picked up those games like poker? Probably peg out, but
Pygar for sure.
yeah.
I never really liked poker, to be honest. I never really liked to play it. It wasn't something I was interested in, right? But I thought, I like games that I was kind of like, okay, would I play this? Yeah, okay. I mean, I find this an interesting game. I never really liked poker, to be honest, and so I was like, I never like playing it, and I never. So I'm like, I don't want to deal it. To be honest, I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the poker players. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want to be around there, and I was like, I don't do that. It's not for me. Pygo I thought was really cool. Like the tiles, it was totally different. I hadn't seen it before. And I thought, oh, this is a really cool game. And like Baccarat, when I first, well, we called it Punta Banco back when I learned it back in Britain, and they had a big table, right? There was like, so there was like literally like being on craps, right? There's two dealers, and there's somebody sitting there with a pallet, and they moved, and I was like, man, that is so cool, and it was big money too, right? So I wanted to deal that, so because I thought and they would call it like it was craps, the person with the pallet, so I didn't. When it got back to like somebody dealing Baccarat on their own, I was like, oh, you've taken a lot of the incentive for me to want to deal it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, we don't even have like a baccarat class. When I first learned it at my original casino, they just basically said like, take a deck of cards, go upstairs on your breaks, and practice. And when you're good, just come back. So I remember there was like a bunch of us all sitting upstairs in the break room, and we were just like, is this how you do it? But like at the time, at the table at the casino I was at, I had never even been in the high limit room because there was only baccarat and there's pagao, and at the time I didn't know either of them, so I didn't even know what a layout looked like when I said I was ready. So when I went down and I was like, I have no clue what any of this is. It was so, I was like blown away, and yeah, I think it only, like, I think it was like 2 nights of like 15-minute breaks where I was practicing, and then we were like, we know all the rules, but then it was like it was very overwhelming. The fact they didn't even have a class, they were just like, yeah, go learn it.
And then, so you didn't have a class, you kind of learned it on your break, and then they went, okay, here you go, jump on the table.
Yeah, they just throw you on a live game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, here you go, have fun, show us what you can do, and they have someone watch you deal like 10 minutes, and then they tell you whether or not you passed.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild for sure.
It's crazy.
I used to years ago. I worked with a guy and he used to say that they used to do auditions. They used to call them auditions, and in Vegas, and they were live game auditions. So they would similar thing. They would throw you on, like rather than like a table test. You know, when you go for apply for the job, you go, oh, it's an audition, and okay, go and take that dealer off there and deal. So you would have to go into a live game and deal, and they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, no, you're not very good. You haven't got a job. So you literally was like a live game audition. I was like, man, that would be so cool. It'd be crazy, but cool, right? But I mean, that's kind of what you did. I mean, your table, to be dealing black. Okay, go on the break, and we're going to throw you on, and okay, it's an audition. Okay, you're now another dealer.
Yeah, and it was like high limit to Baccarat as well. Like it wasn't like $5 Baccarat or anything. They were just like, yeah, just like go on this table with thousands of dollars being played. And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? I don't know, because like they just throw you on whatever table is open, right? So like if there's no $5 games being like played at the time, you just go to the only one that's open, which was our high limit one. It was wild. For sure wild.
But do you find though? I mean, like realistically, when you think of it, right? Like it's a chip, right? It's whether it's a $5 chip or a $5,000 chip or a $50,000, it's one chip, right? But I think like the dealers for a long time, for the most part, we get caught up in the size of the bet, not in it's just one chip. You know what I mean? I remember like the casino I trained in a long time ago, they had this wonky way to deal blackjacks. And it was it was no math at all. It was like cut her in half and cut in 3 times. They didn't care what, I mean, the maximum was whatever, right? Certain players had like, oh, you can have 1,000, this guy can have 5,000, this guy's gonna have 10,000. They just made it up as they went on. Like, oh, I know the owner, we're all good. And they were like, all right, and they would just cut them off. So nobody got really that nervous about it, because it was like, oh, if it wins, I pay him 1 chip. If it doesn't, I cut it in half and I cut it in 3 times. And if it's an odd number, we figured out that 1 chip. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I only have to figure out, well, like, what is a $5 blackjack play? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I know.
I mean, I've noticed, like, because like every casino that I go to, like people do things like even just slightly differently, right? So like if someone's playing like a big stack of red or whatever, like I've seen like some places just like they don't total pay like ever, and I don't know, like I just find like it's so interesting how different houses do it, like based on like I don't know if it's just based on like their dealers or like just their house rules or security's sake. But yeah, I've always done that. And like I think one of my favorite
we lost you again.
I know what one of my favorite thing is. It's like, what is your favorite thing?
Getting to the good part. Oh no. Oh no. Nicole agrees with you. No one wants to be a lumpy.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's a bit of I mean, like, the thing is, your friends make fun of you too. Sorry, Danielle.
It's okay. No big deal. Continue.
Gerald, so do you guys have 250s down there in Calgary? No, you have 1s and 2s? 1, 2, 5, 10?
For roulette?
Yeah.
No, the casino I'm at now has $1, $5.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
My original my original casino has 50 cents, 1s and 5s.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and it was like, it's so weird because I remember like dealing during Stampede, and every single one of the roulette dealers always tried to convince people to play only dollars. We were just like, no, like we don't want to do, like it's so busy, like every single color out, you're also like chipping at like the same time. And yeah, like the casino I'm at now, like we have like chipping machines, and I remember I was just blown away. I was like, what is this like sorcery? Like you have a machine that sorts it out. 250s are fun. Yeah, okay, maybe, but like if you have like all colors out at 250, I don't think that's very fun.
I dealt 25-cent roulette, so
yeah,
that would So it'd be like, oh my god, this is, and people would buy, and it'd be like, because a lot of players would be like, oh my god, this bet is huge, and you're like, you've really it's 60 chips high or 80 chips high, and we're like, you have $20 on the number.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but to be honest, a lot of times we're like, this guy's a pain, and then we color up. Sometimes we color up the number. We're like, we just color up $20. That's his. It was just, but it was fun because the games were huge, right? And we had like, sometimes we had players who'd have two colors.
Oh yeah.
Because they just wanted all chips. Yeah. But it was crazy. We like, because like I said, we had lots of roulette tables, so we'd be like, all right, this guy wants pays 600 chips or 650. Okay, he wants all of them. All right, well, let's just give him two colors and give him 650 chips a bet.
No, see, like I think like the craziest thing that I always thought it was weird because it's so busy like during Stampede, and so like when all colors are out and then someone wants to come play, they would let them play with $5 like value chips on the layout, just one person. So like they weren't like actual chips, but they were just like actually playing like money value.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was so weird. Yeah, but because like sometimes like you didn't really have like they couldn't play too many chips because you only have so many value chips there. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So, just talking about Stampede, how was your time there? Was Stampede Cowboys?
Yeah.
Okay, so were you there for the transition, or was it always Cowboys? Or
no, when I got hired there, it was originally it was called Cowboys. I think like everybody knows it as Stampede.
Yeah.
And just like how like at my casino, most people know it as like ABS. So like when I say like, yeah, like I work at Pure, they're like, what's that? And I was like, oh, it's ABS. And everybody knows what it is. So yeah. Or like just say like the location. I'm like, it's on Barlow, you know? So.
Right. So how was your time there at Cowboys?
It was pretty good actually. I mean, like it's a lot of high energy. Like I really enjoyed all the busy nights. But like there's like a club attached, right? So there's like a lot of like these like young bucks coming to play, like 18-year-olds are really drunk. And so like people who like are actually serious about like their gambling and like their time there, like they don't really want to play with people who are like super drunk, like playing like $5 and splitting their tens and like just doing ridiculous things. Oh, yeah. So some people just there's pros and cons. But I mean like I definitely will always be thankful for that casino. Like I learned so much so fast, and I don't know of any other place that would let me do that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, were you gonna ask?
No, I remember when I like just going to when I first started, like, you know, I know, to be honest, a lot of casinos back in Britain, and the same, it's in, you know, Canada too. You have on Fridays and Saturday nights, it's busy, but it's usually the people like, oh, these guys don't know how to play, they're drunk, they're not really gamblers. But then sometimes in the week, you're like, okay, there's more people who at least understand it, you know, and they're not idiots. That, you know, they come here and they gamble, and it's okay, they've got some big bets, you have some good games, and it's like. But on a weekend, you're like, oh man, I don't want to deal with them all drunken people who just come from a bar and like are trying to impress their friend because they put, oh look, I put $5 on the bet. I'm like, nobody cares. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree, but like at the same time, I was very much in their age group, right? Like I was like 19 at the time, and these kids are like 18, 19, 20, and they're coming to play, right? And they're just like, and so like I guess like I can relate to them a little bit. And you know, like I always think it's so fun when like someone is like coming to like learn something, you know, like they don't really know how to play and they're asking me for advice. And I think that's a big part of like why like I love it so much is I really enjoy like teaching people like a little bit about what I do and like the whole game. And so I wish there was an easier way to explain other games other than blackjack. But like, yeah, so I think it's just like, it's a lot of fun when people are playing just for fun as well.
Yeah.
So, Nicole, so I have a question. So, like you learned all your games like realistically, really, really quickly up to like 22. So, where do you think you're going to go next? Like, what is your next challenge?
Well, I was like talking, I think last, like I was like kind of just in the chat of your guys' last week thing, and I was talking about like doing cruises and like how I could get into that, because I think that would be really sick to be able to like travel and meet a bunch of new people. And yeah, so like I would think I would really like to do that. I mean, I'm already pitting, so like yeah, I would really like to move a little bit maybe and try out other places eventually. But for sure, I want to do some cruises. I think that would be sick.
One of the things that I had, I mean, like Jay and I have talked about this before, and I'm like, the best things that we ever had was the opportunity from working in casinos, right? Like, if you learn all these different games, like especially like craps and roulette, and unlike the major games, not like the donkey silly ones, but the major games, it gives you an opportunity to travel, not just in like, you know, in Calgary or Alberta or Canada, but other places too. I mean, there's going to be so many places that, like, you want to go on a ship, they'll go, okay, what do you deal? Well, you're like, I deal everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you go on there and you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm good. How long you been there? Oh, now I'm 4 years. And you know, as soon as things change, you know, when the COVID and things like that, there'll be so much opportunities. Like, you know, Jay and I worked for Royal Caribbean, and I worked for them for like 3 years, and a lot of people in Edmonton worked for Royal Caribbean, and it was an amazing experience, right? To go on there and travel and to see different things, and I like when I came to Canada and I worked in Edmonton, I was like, if you're young and you have the opportunity, go on ships just to try. If even one contract is like 6 months, you may like, not everybody likes it, right? So you go out there and you try and you're like, I'm not sure if I can do this. Some people are like, oh my god, I love it, and they stay there forever. But it's something you should try because it gives you have the opportunity, right? So I think, you know, if you not tied to being like in Calgary, you should give it a try. For sure.
I mean, I just like really don't even know how to go about it. Like last time I was like listening, the other guy,
Daryl.
Yeah, he.
Oh, Granddad.
This guy.
Yeah, this guy. He was telling me like you have to like go to audition like in Vancouver or whatever, and I mean like I have no problem like doing that. But the thing, like, I'm a little like nervous. I've never had to like audition for anything, you know, like I know that like I'm really good at what I do, and just like the little bit of stage fright, like especially when I switched casinos, like they told me like, you know, like you're gonna have to like table test for all the games, and I said okay, and then I never had to, and I was like, yes, thank goodness. Like they just started throwing me on games like as like it went along, and but yeah, so like it's a little nerve wracking, but I think that would be really really cool. And but I've also was like thinking about it because my friend just came back from a ship, and he was telling me that that like there aren't too many games there, and one of the things that I love about this industry is that like there's so many different like games you can deal every single day. So I would just be worried I would get a little bored, but
okay, so I know. Yeah, let me just say something for John before John says, because John is the expert, but John was the reason why I ended up going. Like he definitely was an influence when he brought craps in. Like when craps came into the city and we first had it in the province, John was one of the people that kind of changed the whole game. Like he came in and he brought his experience in and taught a lot of us about how the game was dealt, and we've kind of adapted to how John dealt. We took a lot of things from him, and then the talks from the table were just about how the ships were. So a lot of us, like, there's a huge exodus of us that went at the same time. For me, my experience, I was 21, which was crazy because like I was super young going on, and when I got on the ships for my contract, I was the youngest dealer there. And the person I went with, he was also from Edmonton. His name was Joe. He was like a year older than me. So like we were the youngest guys. Everyone else was kind of in their 30s from my first contract. The only people younger than us were the dancers. So like to go out and, you know, that contract was amazing too because like we did Alaska, Hawaii, We did the Panama Canal run. We did a Caribbean run. We did South America. So we went from like North America to South America, like literally.
Yeah.
So it was in 6 months. It was amazing. And to go to Hawaii like at 21, you know, like I'll never trade that for anything. It was just an amazing experience, and it's one of the best things that I've ever done. I'll never regret it. And if I had the ability to go back, I totally would. So
yeah, I mean, like I've another thing that's like I'm only 22, right? So I'm really quite young as well. It's like I just like don't want people to like. I've always been like worried that people like think that because I'm so young and because I know all this stuff that like I am probably not really good at anything. Like I'm just like just know it. And so like that's something that like I wouldn't want. I don't know how I'm trying to say this. It's like I always like want to prove that like I can that like I am good at what I do, and so like I put a lot of time and effort into it, and like so like I would just be worried that like people would like judge before they see anything, you know, like when I'm applying, like if like I wouldn't even get a second look at because they would see how young I am, you know.
I think, like for the most part, I mean, like a lot of the places, like I know when I was, you know, in the industry, they'd be okay. You need a minimum 2 years experience. Most of them say like, okay, you need roulette and blackjack. And if you're like, oh yeah, roulette and blackjack, yeah, I know that, and I know all these other games. I mean, now it's not. I mean, you're like by knowing all these other games and being 4 years in the business. I mean, I started when I was 17 and like turned 18 during training, right, in roulette, and then I'm, you know, and I was in it a long time. So I just didn't have your experience. I didn't have your games when I was 22. But if I can tell one tip, I mean, if you're ever on craps, which side do you deal better? You feel that you deal better? Is it the left-hand side or the right-hand side?
I'm left-handed. But I think I like first base.
Okay, so if you ever do a table test, stand on that side. Because make sure you're the first person at the table, stand on that side. The people testing you will come to that side. Because that's what I'm right-handed, like I suppose a lot of people, so I would deal to like my preferred side was to the left of the boxman. So whenever they were like, okay, we're gonna test you on craps, I'm like, okay, but I would make sure I stood on that side first.
So you like second base then?
Yeah, so I would there because I used to throw chips and catch them and things like that, and I was more confident on that one side. So I would make sure that, and it's subtle because you're trying to put yourself in the best light, right? So I would stand on that side, and then they would come to that side and do the table, and they all pass me these chips, and I would pass them out and do whatever. But now I'm comfortable because I'm on the side of the table that I feel the best I can deal, right? I can still do it on the other side, but this was how I felt better on that side, right? So if you do a table test, make sure you're the first one there and you stand on the side you're the best at.
That makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like one of my favorite things about like the craps game and like when I was first learning, I learned craps before I learned Pagao, technically, and yeah, and craps. I was just so amazed that you could like pay and take. And I was like, we should do this on everything. And then like as I got further along, I was like, wait, no, like can I take that back? Like especially as like a pit boss now, I'm like, no, I'm like this is just way too like much. But yeah, so like pay and taking was like one of like my favorite things, and like the chip action. And like I remember I was watching some of like Jay's videos of like his like tricks with chips, and I was just like this is so cool. Like nobody really people just come to work and they just like do their job, and like it's like they're not having fun, but there's always ways to like make it fun. And like craps I think is one of the best examples of that, is like dealers like actually have a good time. Like we all work together as a team, and we can like do some things that are like impressive to other people, like so I just think it's so awesome. This industry is great. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, but so do most cruise ships have like craps and stuff, John?
For the most part, they do. because the majority of the cruise ships are catered towards Americans, especially out because of the US. So there's typically usually, there's a crap table, there's roulettes, blackjacks, and some other, proprietary games or whatever. But they usually always have craps because a lot of Americans used to like to play it, right? Maybe if you go out to in Asia where that, the demographic there, maybe they don't have a lot of players who want to play craps, they won't be there. But for the most part, if you're in the Caribbean, there's going to be a craps table. And that's where most of the, excuse me, and in all honesty, the shorter the cruise is, the busier the craps games. And you get some crazy games too, right? I mean, so like 3-day cruises or daily cruises. I mean, I worked on some daily trips where it's just gambling. They come on, they gamble, they go out, gamble, and they come back in. And so it was, and you get a lot better because you meet in, Jay and I spoke to this before. I mean, like you go and you meet different people from different casinos, from different countries, and they're like, oh my God, that's a cool way to do things. And then you just adapt and you learn new things, right? And you always learn. I mean, one of the really cool things about Jay is, I mean, he's created all these videos, right? So people can learn from the 20 odd years he's been in the business and the stuff that he's learned over this time, and he's created these videos, which are amazing, by the way. So
Yeah, they are for sure.
You know what? Okay, let's just get something straight here. All that technique actually came from John, anyways. So I always say everything that I've learned from somebody else, and a lot of the stuff you don't really, people take credit for it, but in all honesty, it's just us passing everything down. And it, like the really cool thing. Oh, sorry, guys, before we do I know it's 9 o'clock. We're gonna do our roulette thing. Don't worry. But before we kind of move on, I just want to say that Danielle,
I can't hear you guys.
Oh, can you hear me? What happened? Did I lose you?
I'm just gonna reload.
Okay.
can you hear me?
Oh,
okay. I can hear you, Jay. I can hear Danielle too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can hear Danielle as well. Okay. Sounds good. Reload. Okay, that's good.
I can't hear anything.
Just come back. Is that the yeah?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, cool. So okay, guys, there's a bunch of you on, so we're gonna do our $25 gift card giveaway. It's a $25 Amazon gift card. We will do our roulette battle. We didn't do one last week, so we'll do one this week. All right, guys, yeah.
As long as I don't have to add it up.
I don't remember what it is, so
this would be fun.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that was so. I have an alarm clock set for 9 o'clock for when I was starting my 11:30 shifts, and so it went off, and I tried to exit it, and then it like cut off all the sound.
All right. Okay, so let's do the roulette battle. Danielle, you can tell us. Oh no, don't give away the answer, but we'll give it away after.
What are we doing?
Oh, just watch the video.
Okay.
Take a 30-second break here. Here we go. Yay! What is the answer? Uh-oh.
I think
Close. Someone has it already. Someone has it. However, I don't know your name, so we're talking about the StreamYard. Almost. A little more. So, Facebook user. Who is Facebook user?
Let me check in. Oh,
It's in the casino industry. Oh, wait. Oh, I got it. I know who that is. It's Debbie. Debbie L. Congratulations.
we got Chris Hooven on it too. Dude, that guy's awesome. We need to get him on here.
Yeah, Chris, how's it going? Hopefully you're doing well. Another guy with a lot of experience. Oh, hey, remember we're talking about the ships? Look at what I found, just like super random. Celebrity Cruises, unopened deck of cards. Whew. I ever tell you this story about like the only thing that I had that had this logo was a hat, and we were in Alaska, and I went to see like we did Hubbard Glacier. So then I went outside and I went on like the very front of the boat, and the wind was so strong it blew my hat off, and my hat was floating. Like it was floating for like a minute, and I couldn't reach it. It was like so just like out of my reach over the deck, and I lost my hat, and it was like my favorite hat, and then I never got it back. Ugh.
Well, I have a question. Like, so obviously there's like rooms for the people who work on the cruise. Like, how many people is it like per room? Like, is it like bunk beds? I'm sure it is.
Yeah. It used to be like when I was there, it might have changed when Jay was there. They used to be like for the casino anyway, because there's different levels of people, right? So there's like staff, officers, there's staff, and then there's officers, and then there's crew. So when you were kind of like casino, you consider staff, and for the most part, there was always like two to a room. I never saw anybody have more, and there are bunks. And this it's kind of like an etiquette when you first go in there, like who has the top bunk and who has the top bottom bunk. So, but sometimes you might join a ship, get assigned a cabin, and that person is sleeping with somebody else or
Yeah.
married to somebody else, and then you're like, hey, I have the whole room to myself.
Yeah.
Like when I was there, my wife and I was the manager at the time, so I had my own cabin, and she would stay with me because I had a better cabin. And then basically she'd be assigned a cabin, and all we did was put our luggage on the bed, and that was it. We're like, yeah, you can do whatever you want in the cabin. So, but yeah, so most part, I think it used to be, two beds for casino anyway.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, I was hoping that my roommate was sleeping with somebody else, but he wasn't. Well, he was, but she ended up coming to the room. So then, like,
Oh, fun.
yeah, so I'd be top bunk, and then they'd be doing it in the bottom bunk, but they didn't care. So it's kind of awkward. It's kind of awkward when you're on top, right? And you like, I wanted to go to the washroom, but you can't. Like, it's weird.
You're like, I can't come down right now. Like,
Super awkward. I mean, they have.
you're like, hey, how much longer, guys? Like, can I keep going?
Yeah. Well, they do have like a little curtain thing that you can pull across so that you don't really see. Like, so, I mean, that part was good, but yeah, that was my first room.
The first ship I ever worked on, I was 21, and my cabin mate, for some reason, he had like a bad back, and he used to take medication for his like painkillers, and during the night, the medication would wear off, and he would sit up. He would still be asleep, but he would sit up. So he'd be sat up, and he had the bottom bunk at the top, and he'd be sat up. And sometimes I'd go party, and I'd come in, and he'd be sat there, and it's all dark, and I'd see someone sat up, and I'd talk to him for like 10, 15 minutes, like drunk, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, man, he's so rude. He never talks to me. And I go to bed, whatever. It took me about a week and a half, and then he was like, did you notice that sometimes I sit up? People tell me. And I was like, yeah, man, I just thought you were just rude and never spoke to me. He's like, yeah, I'm asleep. He just would sit up, and it was the strangest thing.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, like I find people have told me I talk in my sleep. So like, I could like if I'm like on like a cruise ship, I'm sure I'd have some conversations that the people they'd try to tell me about the next day. I'd be like, I'm so sorry. Like I have no idea. Yeah.
Well,
I sleep with my eyes open, so that's if I'm
That's
drunk, I
really
sleep with my
nice.
eyes open. Yeah. So on that same ship, I'll tell you this is a story. So on that same ship, um, the guy, my roommate moved out, and then a girl I was dating at the time, she came on, and we had this big party, and for some reason we had food in there, we had plants, we had all kinds of stuff, a big old party, and then during the night, somebody fell asleep in my bunk, and I was like, oh, I'll just sleep on the floor. So I fell asleep on the floor, and then the guy that was in the top bunk left, and he left the cabin, and he left the door open, and I'm asleep on the floor, and I sleep with my eyes open when I'm drunk. So somebody walked past, saw me on the floor with my eyes open, thought I was dead. So they phoned up. They phoned up. No, this is completely true. So they phoned up security. So then security, the security manager, the casino manager, the hotel captain, the staff captain, which basically the big four people on the ship that I deal with, all came running down because I'm like, there's a dead body on the floor in his cabin. They all came running down. They burst open, the door opened, they hit me in the head, and I jumped up and I went, who's the clever with the board? And I was like, oh my God. So I'm sitting there like that, and as they rushed in, they were like, "What are you doing on the floor?" I was like, "He's in my bed." So I pointed to a friend of mine who was in the top bunk, and they were like, "Well, why didn't you sleep in that bunk?" I was like, "There's two people sleeping in that bunk," and they were like, "Okay, this is all confusing. Okay, we're gonna talk to you later." And then they left, and then that night I had to go to work. And so I walked in, I was like, that's crazy. And I had this big welt on my head where the door hit me. And I walked in, and the casino manager was like, John, you got a written warning. I'm like, what? I was like, I got a written warning for what? They went, I was like, for this morning? They were like, yeah, you got a written warning. I was like, you got to be joking. For what? Impersonating a dead body? They were like, no. I was like, you got to be kidding me. They were like, oh, yeah. And I was like, so what is it for? They're like, I had to go to the staff captain and sign this written warning and pay $25 fine. I paid a $25 fine, and it was like, what am I paying a fine for? They're like, the warning was for disobeying a staff captain's order. And I was like, so what order did I disobey? You never ever told me I couldn't impersonate a dead body in my own cabin. They were like, I told you a week ago you drink too much. And that was it. Yeah, I was like, okay, fine, that's okay.
oh,
But yeah,
man.
that was my warning. $25 for impersonating a dead body.
Oh, man, that's so cool. Holy cow! I don't think I heard that one, John.
Oh yeah, that was great. Yeah, and that went fleet ride. That was like, oh my God. I met loads of people afterwards and like, John, that was you. I was like, yeah, man, that was just crazy.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's too funny.
So Danielle, I mean, like these stories from the ships are pretty awesome. The ones I get to hear from John are really good. And like my experience has been really good as well. I don't let a table test stop you from doing it. When I did my table test, it was really straightforward. They just wanted to know that you are like a human being, basically, if you can talk to them and communicate and not be a jerk. I think the dealing wasn't as important to them because they're just like, yeah, just deal blackjack the way that you deal at your casino. And it's like, okay. Um, so it was blackjack, a little bit of roulette. We didn't even touch craps when we were there. So I think
Okay.
if it was just for a few minutes. So I think the face-to-face interview is here, and I don't know if they actually. I'm not sure what the process is now for a new hire, but we can always look into that. So
Yeah.
and there's all these people that are like commenting. A whole bunch of them have worked on the ships as well. So guys, if you're on and you remember kind of your experience, just comment right now, and you can kind of give Danielle that information. Yeah.
The thing
Yeah.
as well,
So
Ken,
yeah, like but I mean, like they have like games like stud and whatever else on the ships, right? Those are
Um,
games that like I've never even
Caribbean
seen.
stud poker, yeah. I mean, like I never dealt 4-card poker until
Oh, 4-card poker.
Yeah, well,
So
all I
fun.
did was, now I still don't even know. I think I've dealt it 3 times in like 5 years that I've
Mhm.
been working at that casino. And I really just look at the felt. And I just look at the last hand that whoever I'm relieving dealt and then just wing it from there. So
Yeah,
I think it's the same.
that's basically what I did when I was learning four card and when I was learning chase the flush.
Chase the Flush. I've heard about that game. I just saw that game in Grand Prairie. You're going to have to show me how to play that game.
But the
I
thing
don't even know what
is
that is.
Yeah.
like I I don't know what it is. Like apparently, like the more that I talk to you guys, the more I realize like as much as I feel like I've done like a lot of training, like I've done training for like all like the major games, but I was never taught, like, I never took a class for Pai Gow Poker. I never took a class for Ultimate Texas Hold'em, for Four Card, or for Chase the Flush. Like, all these
Yeah.
games, they just threw me on. And even, like, Bach, like, they just were just like, yeah, like, practice upstairs, go learn it. And then I taught myself Pai Gow as well. Like, all these
Mhm.
games, I was just like, they just are like, learn it yourself, and then they just throw you on.
So, like, yeah, sorry, John. I know you have something to
Can you
say,
hear me,
but
John?
before, so before, yeah, like before John comments, but I mean, those games. I think that's how that should be, except for
Yeah, I
Baccarat.
agree.
Except for Baccarat, given the fact that Baccarat is like the most important game for a casino when it comes to like revenue and security. I really think that they should focus a little more on how they kind of train that game and kind of sharpen, like shore things up with that. But for
Yeah,
all the
I mean,
prop
I
games,
think the only reason why that happened at the casino I was at is because we only had 3 baccarat tables.
mm. But no, I that's it's not just your casino because it happened at ours too,
Oh,
where it was
really?
one day of training, if that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, like even now that like I pit boss sometimes, like I can like I like see things that bug me that like I didn't even realize would bug me otherwise.
hmm
Like the way some people like pay chips or like and like I don't know because like it's so weird being like my age and having people who've been in the industry for so much longer than me like do things when I'm watching them and like they know it's wrong and but then I have to tell them it's wrong and and then like I've had somebody be like well like you're like who are you basically I'm like well right now I'm this to you like tomorrow I'm not like it's just it's a little bit confusing sometimes for me because like these people like technically they've been in the industry for so much longer and I have to tell them when they make a mistake or I have to fix their mistakes
it's
it's
the joys of being a floor supervisor, right? But that's how you learn. That's how you
mm-hmm.
learn. And you know what? Like, yeah. Well, I'll talk some more. But go ahead, John. I know John, you wanted to say something before.
Well, I was going to say that it's going back to the ships, right? But one of the things about on when you work on a ship, the casino is not the reason somebody went on that cruise. They went on a cruise to do whatever, go to this place, enjoy the cruise, whatever. So the casino is kind of an extension of their holiday, right? It's it's more of a pastime that they do while they're on a cruise, right? So they are looking for people who outgoing and friendly, and your personality is a big thing. And actually, Nicole, while I was waiting, like she kind of like agrees with me. So, ships are looking for personality, and that's really mostly what they are doing, right? They're not. You're not going to see like massive games there, to be honest. For most cruises, you're going to see, sometimes you will over, Christmas and New Year, you might see busy games, but for the most part, you really won't. So it's not so much about the skill of the dealer; it's more about how great you are with the players, right? And because every week there's going to be like comments about, oh, and I had some bad ones. I had lots of bad ones, right? So I was always like thankful when they was like, oh, there's 2 Johns on this ship. Oh, we can just blame each other. That way we never get in trouble. So if it's more like how outgoing you are, how great with your players. I mean, Darryl too. He went to bed at like 5:30 because he had supper at 4. Because he's kind of old. But like he was great. He was great, right? He's great with the players, right? We talked about that last week when he was on, right? It's not so much about your dexterity and how good you are with when you're on ships anyway. how good you are with that way. How it's the experience you have with the players.
Mhm. Oh, we
And
lost you.
Danielle's like, "Oof, fuck, I'm out of here."
It's like I didn't like that last comment, John.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I've had enough of that guy. I'm done.
We lost you. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like one of the main things that like I like. I think I'm pretty outgoing, so I think that would be okay for me. Like, and I really like meeting new people and like talking. And I think that that's something that like some people kind of like get annoyed a little bit. Like sometimes like I'm like talking and dealing at the same time. So they're like, can you just like not? Especially in the poker room. Yeah, but
that's okay.
I don't know.
That's part of learning how to adapt to the situation,
For sure.
because I think we did talk about this. Like we kind of chatted about it as well. I mean, like what I consider an exceptional dealer is someone that can adapt to whoever their floor supervisor or ball person is.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
and adapting to the game, not just like the person, but it's adapting to the game as well. So you see like a certain type of player, can you accommodate that player, like what their requests are? Because you can't deal the same way to every player.
Exactly.
It doesn't work, right? So
Yeah, I
One of the
completely agree with that.
one of the coolest things though about like when you do work on ships is so they say there's a week cruise or a 3-day cruise, 4-day cruise, whatever it is. Every every new cruise, there's new players coming on. So the game is, you've no idea what the game's going to be like. It could be completely different. There could be, so, like when you work in, a land-based casino, you're like, okay, I'm going in. I know Jay, I know Danielle, I know exactly how you play. You do it exactly the same way. Give me 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, I can deal with on craps anyway. You understand how they play, and that's it. You're like, okay, this is good. But when you go on the ships, the churn of new players is incredible. You don't see that on typically anyway in a land-based casino. So your experience gets a bit better, right? Because in all honesty, after a while, you're like, okay, a lot of these players are not that different. But occasionally, you're like, oh my god, there's some new players, new way they play, new things they do. So it's refreshing, right? Because sometimes you're like, oh man, I'm done with these guys. After about 4.5 months you're into the contract, you're like, I'm done with this. Just want to go home now. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. But for the most part, that's one of the good things. Even if they're jerks, you're like, yeah, you're a jerk, but you get off at the end of the cruise, right?
Yeah, that's really true. And like I think that's like one of the things that like was really hard about switching casinos, right? Is that like it was all new players, and especially when we still had craps when I first switched casinos, and the craps players like they expect their dealers to know their action basically. So like they just throw you money, and like I'm like, it's my first day, and like I don't know what they want for it, but like they're not really telling me, and like the boxman's like you have to learn this stuff like really really quickly, like you have to know who these people are, what they want, and do it. And I think like that was something that I found really quite difficult as well, especially since I had only been dealing craps for like 8 months.
Which is, I mean, that's that kind of stuff. Like it gets easier the more you do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, say for instance, you get on a ship and you're like, okay, it's a new player. A lot of times they get repetitive, but to your point, then is how quickly can you adapt to the game that you're dealing, right? Like Jay mentions, right? Once you get more and more experience, you just pick it up a little, more like, in all honesty, it gets easier to adapt to that play. And you're like, for the most part, you're like, once you've been doing it for a few years, you'd be like, yeah, man, like 20 minutes, I know what he wants.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're wonky, you know what I mean? But then it's, for the most part, you can pretty much adapt to it after about 20 minutes.
yeah, and not just the player; it's also the people that you work with as well. Because there's a lot of different personalities that I don't know, you like I say get stuck with. In all honesty, because not everybody's pleasant. So to be able to kind of adapt to whoever you're working with is pretty important too. It just makes a difference between like having a good shift and just being miserable, right? And I really don't want to work a 7-hour shift being miserable,
Yeah,
honestly.
I agree.
Yeah.
I once worked in London, in England, like London, England. That's really busy, right, for the casino wise. And I got a job in this one casino, and I was in craps. My first night there, there was this guy, and his name was Doug. He was a boxman, and he was a terrible human being and a terrible boxman. He made everyone's life hell. He hated all the players. He hated all the dealers, and all the experienced dealers were like, don't want to deal with him. So they all just got opposite shifts to this guy, Doug, right? And I didn't know this. First night, he goes, I like how you deal. You're going to work on the same shifts as me. I was like, okay, what's that? He goes, okay, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, Thursday, Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday off. I was like, perfect. That's like the perfect shift. I was like, yeah, I'm all on that. He was like, I'll get it sorted out. So he went that night. I had that to me, it was like a perfect shift. And I was like, oh, great. I didn't think, well, why isn't anybody else want that shift? I only started like literally 25 minutes into my shift. I get this perfect rota forever. And it wasn't until I dealt, like literally the first week, I'm like, oh, I get it. He's a horror story. I had to deal with him for literally 6 months. I'm like, I gotta leave. And I spoke to the other guys, and I'm like, yeah, man, nobody wants to deal with this guy. He's awful. He eventually got fired, but yeah, he just made everybody's life hell. If you made a
Yeah.
mistake, he was terrible.
I think like a lot of places have somewhere like that because both of the casinos I worked at, there was always one boxman that we all were like, oh no, like can you switch my rotation, please? Like there was this one guy who used to make every single craps dealer cry like at least once, and all these people they're like, yeah, just like be careful, you know what I'm saying? And like it was like my first week there, and he was like super trying to get at me, you know, like and you knew whenever he was mad because he'd stand up and he'd basically like be on your shoulder like watching you, and I'm like, yo, how am I supposed to do this if you're so close to me? And yeah, there was a couple times like I think he had like at least like 20 complaints in like 6 months that I like since I started working there. And like I remember like one time I was like I can't do this if he's like the boxman, like I'm not getting anywhere, like the game is going so slow, and like he's like one of like those, it's like his table, you know, like when he's there it's like we're not a team, it's just he's like the boss. And like yeah, it was like he wasn't like willing to like help anybody to improve, so it was really quite frustrating. He's retired, so okay.
Well, that's usually what happens to people like that. But I mean, for you, it like, you know, he's probably not going to be the last, he or she, sorry, he's probably not going to be the last person. So I think you try to find a challenge out of that, and it's just for me, like if I was dealing with a person like that, it's like, okay, what does this person want, so that this person will leave me alone when I'm dealing. Really, like that's kind of like the end
That's
game.
how I thought about it as well, right? And so like I tried to do so much, but like it doesn't, I found that it didn't really matter. Once I fixed that one, like once I thought I figured it out, it was like a whole new thing. Like whether or not the table was losing, then he was even more mad. Like sometimes like when the table lost, like he would like take one of us off and have us box while he was dealing. Like he thought like he would like change like the luck of the table or something. And like that kind of stuff just like really drove me nuts. I was like, I can't be here. like I love my job, and like I don't want to start hating like hating dealing craps because of one person. So yeah, and it wasn't just at the craps table. Like once we got rid of the craps, it was bad everywhere. You know, so.
But I think you get those crazy people anywhere, right? Anywhere on all different games. I mean, I've worked with players that like, sorry, pit bosses and management. They're like, yeah, if you're on stick and you can't call, you know, you keep calling winners, they're like, get him off the table. Or if you're on, you know, like they're like, okay, why can't he use, you know, keep spinning the wrong numbers? It's just, people are just crazy sometimes, right? So I think the benefit you have though is when you work with people like that is you think, well, I did anyway, is when I get into that position, I know how I'm not going to do it because he's shown me exactly how things shouldn't be. Like he's not helpful to you as a dealer. He's not helpful to I mean, I've had so many arguments with boxmen. Like, you're not good with the players. You're not good with the dealers. You're not good with the other boxmen. What good are you? You know what I mean? And I was a dealer. You know what I mean? They'd be like, what? So I got into trouble up, but it kind of like I always found you learn from good leaders and bad leaders. The ones that are kind of like mediocre, you learn nothing, because the good ones, you learn how to do things right. The bad ones, they teach you how to do things wrong. So you're like, I don't want to do that. And so, I mean, like this crazy guy you work with, you're like, when I sit in box, I'm never going to do that because that
Exactly.
idiot
Yeah.
used to do it before, right? So you kind of, thinking back, you're like, oh man, that was awful. But you learn things from him, right? All the
For
bad
sure.
things, you learn things.
Yeah. I mean, did you guys find that like any of like the places you worked at, um, like they would like switch off dealers like based on like who's playing, like
Mhm.
like some of the places like I've like been at like if like somebody was doing good, like I'd see like dealers like getting switched out like every like 5 minutes, and I was like, what's happening? You know?
I mean, there's been a little bit of a change, and I think you see a lot of that in high limit now,
Mm.
and I think that's just more about catering to a player. And,
Yeah, I mean, like we only like allow like requests like that, like if it's like private tables.
mhm.
But it's yeah, I mean,
It
super.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweating the money, exactly.
Yeah. Hi, Sid. Hopefully you're doing hopefully you're doing well. Nice to meet you, Sid. This is Wyatt as well. So hey, Wyatt. Nice to see you as well. We'll have you on the show at one point about customer service. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, wow. We've been talking about quite a bit. But what I really liked, like I loved having you on, Danielle, because for me, you're like a unicorn, which is it's a compliment because it's not often that we find somebody this young that's all games.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'll tell you, like where I work, I think I'm one of like 3 or 4 people that are all games, and that's it out of like the whole casino. So when I was your age and when I started, there was a whole ton of us that were multi-game dealers, and I think the industry has changed. So to see someone like as young as you, like all games and floor sweeping as well, like it's not something that's common anymore. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like what helps that like I actually have quite a few friends who are like still in like their mid-20s or whatever who are also all games, and I think you would actually like some of them. Like there's this I think he's a part of like our group. His name's Zach. um, he he's actually like one of like the best like dealers like I've ever seen, and he's so young, but like he's so like excited about his job just like me, and like I think like we like help feed off each other, especially when we worked at the same place. um and like one of the things that like I think is like doesn't really help the whole that people don't want all their new games is like there isn't always very much incentive.
mhm.
Like I remember when I was like first learning games, and like they said like, yeah, like you can learn all these games and like you'll still be like making the same amount of money, and people were like, well then what's the like what's the motivation? And someone said like to remain gamefully employed, and I was just like, wow, like that's that's a little bit surprising. But like so some people like they're just like, well, like if I can just stay and do something easy, then why would I not do that? And I'm just like, well, like don't you want to have fun? Like I just think like the more you know, like every single day you should want to learn something new. So, and every day I still am. Like I mean, I'm still like I still learn like new things, like new ways to like to do everything,
Mhm.
and I think that's really really sick. So yeah.
Okay, before John says something, I just I want to say something here. I love that mentality. Like it's something that's been lacking in the industry for so long. And like I said, one of the reasons why I always keep saying this, one of the reasons why we put everything together like this and we have our live stream is for someone like you to talk to someone like John, because connecting the generations is really important because there has been a little bit of a gap, and to see people that are motivated like that, it's like refreshing, honestly. To your point with like all of you guys wanting to learn, the reason why I wanted to be in all games, Well, first off, I really just wanted to learn roulette, pai gow, and dice because for me, I wanted to have fun, and
Yeah,
what better
same.
way than to be on a table with someone else? Because for me, like I can deal blackjack or baccarat, but for it's kind of boring, right? Dealing poker is kind of boring unless you love poker. If you want to
Yeah.
talk to players, and that's cool. But for me, I like in all honesty, I just like talking with somebody else. It doesn't matter who it is usually, but
Hmm.
to work side by side with someone rather than just be by yourself at a dead table, I
Hmm.
mean, like, makes things so much better. So it's a social aspect of it I like.
Yeah. I completely agree. Like, are your guys's like when you guys had Paiga, was it still two dealers?
Um, yeah, well now it's one, but for
Yeah.
like when I started, um, it's funny because at the palace there was one person sitting down and then there was one person sitting beside you watching you deal. And it was just like the size of a blackjack table. So 20 minutes you're dealing, 20 minutes you're like this, and you're just talking to players and you're just watching the dealer beside you, and then 20 minutes you're on break. It was the most amazing shift ever. And
Mm.
especially if you're a last break because you're laughing, it was like the best.
But
So
Yeah,
we
because
yeah,
when
John.
I was first dealing Paiga, it was like there was like a chipper and
Hmm.
like the dealer or whatever, and
Oh yeah,
I only got to deal that way for like I think like 2 months before they changed it to like one dealer only.
yeah.
And I just remember like the uproar, like from all of our Pago dealers. They were like, "How are we supposed to do this?" And and like, but I actually I kind of like it better. I mean, like it's as much as like I liked being like having someone else to talk to. Like I just found like I like doing so many things all at the same time. Like I said, like my hands move really fast. So like whether or not I'm paying out, like paying, taking,
Mm.
like figuring out commission or whatever. Like if I'm only on the other side, like I'm not doing very much. And I found like I was like getting a little bored.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, then there's some things that you can learn while you're shuffling and stacking.
For
Because
sure.
I mean, yeah, there's technique in everything, and you find like the most out of it. But for me, like doing like a side by side or across, like for a big table like that, it's just more about talking. I mean, I talk and get in trouble for talking. So, but
Yeah.
like for me, that's basically it. I would rather do that than just like deal on my own and like listen to, everyone speak Chinese. So
Mm.
that's boring, right? But being there with somebody and talking is so much more better. So sorry, John, you're gonna say?
No, the thing I was going to say, I think it's amazing that, like Danielle, you have a group of friends to kind of push yourself to be better, right? I mean, that's how you become better. Is because you're with a group of people like dealers, and you're like, man, that was so cool what he did. It doesn't matter what game it on, but you're like, my God, that was so cool. I would just want to, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to steal that, and that's how we
For
all got
sure.
better. We're like, how did you do that? And then later on, you'd be like, oh my God, Danielle did this. That was so cool. I'm going to steal that too. I'm not going to say it's mine because,
Yeah.
yeah, do you know what I mean? So you kind of drive and you push each other to get better, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's what the games where you see that with the games with multiple dealers, like you said, like roulette and Pygo and
Yeah.
craps. You don't really see it. No one's like, oh my God, that's the best baccarat deal I've ever seen. Nobody really is like, eh. I
Yeah.
mean,
For sure.
obviously there are, but I mean, like the skillful ones, you challenge yourself and you try and get better, right? And I think
Hmm.
the challenge, and like we spoke about this before, like once you first learn you want to get better and you want to get it to a certain because you'll see someone in your dealer and you're like, okay, man, Jay's just a world class dealer, and you'll go, I want to be as good as him. And then at some point you'll get really, really good. The challenge then is how do you stay at that level, right? How do you keep doing it? And because in all honesty, you move around, you'd be like, you'll meet less and less people who want to be as good as you or as driven. Do you know what I mean? So that becomes the challenge too. It's yes, you get good, then how do you continually stay good? Because sometimes you're like, I don't want to feel like that today. Do you know what I mean? So that's one of the things when you get good. How do you continually stay at that level, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I understand. And like that makes a lot of sense. And it's that's something that I didn't really like about as much as I thought like
Oh,
Uh oh. He lost you.
Hi. Sorry.
Oh.
Like as much as like I thought the chipping machines were so cool, I was like, wait, like now you don't have like someone who's like there who can like help like you, or like and you can help them, and like you can like get better together. Like when I remember when I first passed my roulette, and like we had a chipper, and so we would like set up like different payouts and practice with each other and like try to get better at this kind of stuff. And now that's something that like you can't really do with like these like all these like new technologies and like all this advancing. And yeah, like, and I saw someone like said something about like the automatic like roulette things. We have those like right beside our actual roulette tables,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so sometimes like I see people playing there, and I'm like, no, like come hang out with me, like I want to deal.
Yeah. Yeah, Wyatt's asking where were you when he was in this industry?
I was probably
She wasn't born.
Yeah,
yeah,
I was
exactly.
gonna say that. Oh my god, I was gonna say that. Darn it! Oh, you guys beat me to it. So funny. So Sid says, "Love Paga tiles. Hasn't seen it on the floor for almost 30 years." Yeah, but yeah,
That's
we.
so sad to me. Like, and
Yeah.
like I understand that like it's like people always tell me it's a dying game, and that's something that like honestly makes me so sad. Like I see like people come out to me sometimes, like they see me dealing it, and like I'm like speaking English, and you know, like I'm like actually having fun like with my players and everything, and they're like, oh, like I want to learn, and then I start talking and like I try to explain like how to play, and they're like, yeah, never mind, and they walk away. I'm like, no, please, you'll actually have a lot of fun.
So I do have one question about Paiga, because when I was there in Calgary, and it was like, I mean, like the very first time that I played, Paiga was very aggressive there. So there was a lot of player banks, and they would bet hardcore against each other. The difference between the two cities is that here it was a bunch of people that were friends, and they would come play together. So then when there was a player bank, you wouldn't see a lot of money. But then in Calgary, people were going hardcore against each other. Is that the way the game is now, or is it different?
No, I haven't actually really noticed that. Like I find a lot of the time, like when at my casino, in order to bank, you have to have $1,000 in chips, which is just different than every other casino that has it. But you have to have like $1,000 in case other people want to play against you. But nobody really plays against the other person. Like the only time someone plays is they play $10, so that way they can bank twice.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
it has changed.
Most of the time, nobody plays against each other, like especially at my casino, because they, yeah, like basically everybody who plays every single day. Like we have the busiest paigao in the city. We have 2 tables open every single day, and like most places like have trouble having one. So yeah, nobody really plays against each other, and people don't really bank very much, and if they do, like it's just house way, you know, or like reverse house way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Back to roulette. Debbie says game security isn't as strong with the chipper champ, I'm assuming, or yeah, I think chipper.
I think like I've worked with, like I trained with chippers, so you just adapt to a different thing, right? I mean, like we would use a chipper when either the ball was spinning, you know what I mean, like so. You spin a ball and you're like, okay, I gotta get a couple of sacks out, and then or while you're waiting for people to play, you're taking chips out, you know. So I don't, yeah. So I think it's a different way. You have to adapt, like we talked earlier. I mean, like you have to adapt to the game you're dealing, right? So, like I said, we had 12 roulettes where I trained.
Yeah, I find that wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we probably had about six or seven roulette machines, like, sorry, not roulette, like chippers. And, you know, 1 or 2 of them would break, and we would take them out and move them to different games, right? We'd, you know, there'd be one person, you're like roll that, for that rotation, whatever could be a chipper. There might be a 2 or 3, and he'd be like, okay, we have to take this machine out. This game's died. We move it to another one, because there was so much. You couldn't, when you're having one player does 500 or 600 chips to spin, it's hard to try and keep up and trying to keep the game going when all you're doing is like it was. Yeah. So sometimes you kind of adapt to it, right? It's a different type of game.
Yeah, and I think that's probably like the reason why my casino doesn't allow call bets after balls in motion, is because we don't have like an actual like chipper person. We have like the chipping machine, so like nobody's watching the layout if you're doing that. But at like the other casino, right, like there's at least the chipper is always watching the table. And yeah, like I remember like a lot of people used to get really frustrated when like they would have a chipper who doesn't actually deal roulette, because like they don't like they're not very fast at picking up chips, and B, like they're not there to like confirm like payouts or whatever, especially on a really busy game. So yeah, like I completely understand what they're saying. I agree, like there is less security. So
but one of the things we had in the UK, we used to have like two roulette tables, and so left and right, and they'd be together, whatever, and you'd have a pit boss on a literally like this big tall chair, and they would be watching just 2 tables because of the call backs, right? And because of all the different action. And when I worked in London, there was also microphones. So they would be like, if there was a dispute, they'd be like, hang on, let's go and check the surveillance. And they would check the wheel, they check the cameras, which had microphones too. And they'd be like, yeah, you didn't have it. That's a lie. It was after he said no more bets. Or sometimes they'd be like, yeah, you were right. We're going to pay you. And then you feel like a jerk, and then you have to pay them the money.
you feel like a jerk.
You're like, sorry, sir, here's money. Didn't mean to say no bet on you, even though I thought it was.
Oh, I love that. Sounds like a lifeguard.
It literally was like a lifeguard. It was obviously they had more clothes on than Baywatch. We used that. Oh, can I tell you a quick story about that? So
sure.
the casino I trained in, right? So we had these big, literally like lifeguard chairs. They were big, so they was the pit bosses. They had their rotation too. And this one guy, and his name was Glenn, and he was slightly crazy. He's probably stoned a lot, but I liked him. But my friend used to torment him like crazy. He would get on his chair, the pit boss chair, and he would move it back so far, and he would be shouting to the dealer. He'd be like, "Speak up! You have to shout!" And he did. It just make you shout really loud. But he was so far away. He'd be like, "Why? You just come closer, dude!" And he'd be like, "No, I have to be over here." And my friend would mime. He was experiencing it. He'd be like, and he'd be like, "Paul, you need to shout!" And he'd be like, and he would mime, and he like Glenn just knew he was just driving him crazy, and he would just mime all the time. And he hated my friend Paul. He hated him. Paul would just torment him the whole night. He goes, "I don't care. I'm doing." And Paul was he was a great dealer, right? And he would like, "I'm just gonna mess with his head all night."
Oh man.
That's funny.
Sorry, Wyatt. No, yeah. See, he's confirming.
Yeah.
Sid says the whole industry has changed. So disappointed. But meeting someone like Danielle, like it gives us a little more hope, because it's nice to see someone like even you just kind of referencing just technique and kind of just talking about procedures and whatnot. It's actually really refreshing, because I don't know the last time I've talked to somebody about that. Somebody young, like not somebody that like I've talked with John about it all the time, but someone that's actually working in the industry right now, and someone that's in all games. It's actually really cool to see that. So I have a feeling that you already know your stuff.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've worked, like I said, like it's something that like I studied for, like not just at work, right? Like things like I feel like I'm actually quite passionate about the industry, and so like when I'm at home, like I still practice, like I still use that app to get better, and like I'll practice tiles at home and like all that other stuff. Like I practice, like I used to set up like a bunch of chips and just practice presses like all night long, like while I'm watching shows. And this is stuff that like I don't feel like other people do, but I mean, like, when you love it, you should. And like I had, like I said, a couple of my friends, like we used to do that, like that's the stuff together. Or like we'd go and we would play. We would like when we were first learning crafts, we'd go play and like watch other people's hands and like try to figure that stuff out. So there's a couple of us. There's a couple of us, I promise.
Yeah, like unicorns, honestly, because I mean that when I started, there was a bunch of us that were like that. But you know, the difference between us is that when I started, craps just came into the city. So I started. Yeah, you weren't even born yet, and this is my first year on craps. And then John came in, and I met John. But what we used to do is go to the other casinos and see like their best dealers and see what they were doing. And it's like, oh yeah, exactly what John was saying. It's like, well, I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna steal that. I hear calls, right? So then we would hear calls, and then I don't know. I really didn't steal a lot of the calls, but we would try to make our own up, and
Yeah, I always love the dirty ones. I don't know why. I think they're so funny.
That's nice. It must be a Calgary thing.
Really?
We had one casino downtown that was they were very very explicit in their calls. So
I mean, like they're not like straight up dirty, but like you actually have to listen to figure out that they're like.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I think almost all the calls on craps are like that. It's like innuendos, right? I mean, it's like,
for sure.
oh, okay, that's some of them are more subtle than others. Some of them are just like blatantly like gross, and I'm like, yeah, I hated that one. The whole like Juicy Lucy one, I hated that one. I'm like, nope.
Juicy Lucy or like the
Nina
like
Brown
swallows like the cum.
Yeah.
Like
I was
things
like,
that. Yeah, those are.
yeah, it was. I always
Those are
found that
wild.
gross. I was like, that's just. I didn't like it. I heard it 30 odd years ago. Never used it then. Never ever used it while I was dealing. But I think Jay and I have talked about this before a long time. But this, for me anyway, the stick I always thought was one of the most challenging kind of positions on craps, because it's how do you create the atmosphere that people want to play? And to your point earlier, you said Pike Hour is kind of dying. Craps in a way is also kind of dying. You have to make this game entertaining and fun. And if the person on stick, for the most part, is the person who's creating the atmosphere for the game, right? And if you're fun and it's exciting and it's engaging and there's some witty banter between you and the players and the other dealers, you're creating an atmosphere that people want to come and play, right? Once if it's just you're just calling a number and saying this like dull, boring call, who wants to? I mean, as gamblers, who wants to play on that? You're like, oh man, this is boring. I'll go and play a slot machine, right? Like maybe get a free drink, right? So, and by the way, yeah, it's really impressive that you guys are challenging yourself and getting better in all these games. And and I'm not sure who that is. Gives us hope.
That's Sid.
Yeah, I think that's great, right? I mean, it's you now are kind of being in the business for 4 years. There's people looking at you now and going, man, I want to be as good as Danielle, right? You're inspiring other people to be as good as you, right? Which I think is amazing.
That's exciting.
No, it is. I think it's really cool, and I think you're doing a great job. I've never seen you deal, but I think you're doing great.
I can we're under the assumption. I mean, just given the fact that you're an all games dealer and what you talked about when you talk about technique, I think you have hands, but I'll have to talk to some friends down there just to verify.
Go ahead.
Make sure. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'll talk to some of my Calgary friends. But like I said, I mean, that's the thing. It's just John and I every time we've done this, we talk about the art, right? Are we going to lose it? There's a lot of like the computer aspect coming in.
Yeah.
So like, are we going to lose craps? Are we going to lose the art of dealing roulette, chipping roulette, pushing out stacks, doing presses, things like that, working with chips? I don't know. So, lost her again. She don't like that. She don't like that comment.
Just like, I'm done with Jay. That's all.
Who's this guy? There you are.
I lost. I couldn't see any of us.
Yeah. Well, you're back.
Come spot me for sure. Come do
it. Not in a creepy way.
No, for sure. Just come say hi.
Just objectively, casino life, casino person to casino person. Yeah. So. All right.
Can I just one before we finish? Can I just say one shout out to Jay's Atari T-shirt.
Yay! Someone noticed.
I noticed it when we first started. I was like, I'll wait till later, and I was like, that's kind of a cool shirt.
Just going retro this week. I was like, yeah, I feel like wearing blue, so yeah. Danielle,
Yes.
is there anything else that you want to talk about? I know we look at that. It's been like an hour and 50 minutes already. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about a lot today. I'm sure like after this, I'm gonna like process and then think, but you're like, oh my goodness, I should have mentioned this or whatever. But I did want to talk a little bit about like those like tournament things that you guys hold because I'm interested. I want to kick some butt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping at some point, because of COVID and everything, we're not able to kind of do this live, but the whole intent is, I'm doing blackjack and we're doing pag-out tiles. That's all in good fun. We're not really, we say it's the universal championship of the universe. So
Okay.
we have a lot of fun with that, and we get to like pass it around and people get to challenge each other, and it's all in good fun. But what I want to get to is craps, and we will get to that point. And then at some point we're going to bring John in, and he's going to be the stick person.
Do it.
He's also like the game show host, so John like does a lot of the the fun stuff. So yeah, I mean, anybody is so for every, not just Danielle or John, like everybody that's on, like if you want to be a part of that, then just send a message, just comment, because really like what I want to do with the blackjack is get anybody that wants to just play, but you can also promote like your charities, or if you want to send a message out, give some shout outs to some people that need it, then like that's kind of like the outlet for blackjack, and that's kind of why I do it. So it doesn't just have to be casino people. Like I have some people that want to play, and they have some messages, they want to talk about their charities, so that's really cool, right? The pie out tiles, like exactly like what we just said 5 minutes ago. It's like a dying art, and it feels like we're losing a lot of that. So it's just a cool way to kind of bring it back. And now that everything is kind of shut down in our province again, then where else are we gonna be able to like play pie and just have some fun? So it's so cool to just talk with you and have a perspective from like another casino, right? So
Yeah.
I love talking to people about like, this is your experience, right? And like you're so young, and it's like I just can't wait to see like how you progress. And if it's not the ships, I mean, like for me as a pit manager, I love that position. It was great, and to be an all games pit manager, and eventually be an all games manager, that's gonna be crazy. It's not something that everyone has been able to do. So, sorry, John, go ahead.
I don't know. I was just going to say, like, you've gained credibility because you deal all games. Right? Once you get to a point where, like, just by talking to you and your drive and how good you are, there's no question you're going to get promoted, right? In whatever industry you want to do or whatever casino you want to do. But the fact that you now can go into talk to anybody on any game with an authority and experience, it's impressive, right? Few people your age will have the ability to do that, and you'll gain respect because it doesn't matter who you deal. You can say, okay, let me deal, or I can do this, or I can do it this way. Or, you know what I mean? So it's very impressive what you've done, and keep doing it.
Thank you, John. Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like I have a lot to learn, and like it's awesome to be able to talk to you guys as well, who have so much experience, and like I I hope I can learn from you guys as well. So
that's cool. Yeah. I mean, this is what the channel is for. Like we're gonna dump everything that we know, and it's just connecting the generations. So it's really cool to kind of have you on. And the other thing too is like you started at 18. That's incredible, because you go on the ships now, you're 22. Like, can you imagine, like 22? Like, you need 2 years of roulette experience. So
I have that.
you're super young going onto the ships. So imagine the things that you're going to learn from the people that you would meet on there as well.
For sure.
So, like, John is an A dealer, which is crazy. So imagine, like, you talk about technique and speed and kind of understanding like games and customer service. So that's that's kind of the level that you want to achieve, right? So, and the fact that you said that you're still learning, I mean, that's a big deal too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I could talk like another hour. It's just crazy. So, it's for me, it's exciting, you know, and like, I think John, I think you're excited too, and the fact that it's just like the kind of mentality that you have towards games. It's not just like, yeah, I'm here to like make a paycheck and make some tips, and
For
that's
sure.
it. I think there's
I
more to it.
I think I agree with Jay. I mean, there's too many dealers right now, and it's almost like it's contagious. Where, like you mentioned earlier, it's like they come in, it's like, I'm just going to do it because I want to just get paid and just want to do this, right? And
Mhm.
then it becomes contagious. Then you don't see anybody that's outstanding, right? So I think what you're doing and some of your friends are doing is really something that should be promoted. And when Jay said, "Oh, you're going to be on here," I was like, "Oh man, that's so cool." Because I've heard you on some of the comments, and you're like, "You want to be good." I'm like, "I got 22 years old, and you did all games." I was like, "Man, that's crazy." I'm like 30 years older than you, and I still don't know all games.
Yeah, yeah, we talked about that though. It's
Yeah.
not like you couldn't have, John. Like
Yeah,
you have the ability.
it was a choice. It was I personally chose not to deal with them, but I just did the ones I wanted to do. But no,
And
I think it's really
you're in a different stage in your career too, John. Like if yeah, I'm sure if they had like Caribbean Stud when you were 19, I'm sure you would have picked that up. No, okay, never mind.
no, only no because I didn't deal like I said I learned blackjack. Sorry, I learned blackjack after roulette and craps, and I was like only
Really?
because I learned when the casino I trained in. They were like okay, and I left. I learned roulette. I did roulette for like a year, craps for 2 years, and then I left the casino I was in, and I went to work in Israel in this sketchy illegal casino, and then I had to learn blackjack in this illegal casino somewhere. And I was like, and there was no rules. You can split anything, double anything. It was all crazy. So I've been dealing for 3 years, and I had to go backwards to learn, you know. So yeah, it was like, oh, I learned all that. Oh, this is a boring game. This is, So all those games became, to be honest, not that interesting.
No, fair enough, John. Fair enough. Although I think you like when you said you started, there was only 3 games available, though, right?
In the casino I worked in,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
In Britain, there was only 4. There was only roulette, blackjack, craps, and pie pal. Sorry, no, and bar
Oh,
at the
okay.
time. So my casino, they threw up baccarat. They're like, don't want it. So there was only 3. The casino I trained in, there was only the 3 games, right? So
Yeah. So technically, you were all games at one point.
yeah, at one point, yeah, it was kind of. I was really, yeah.
Yeah. See, there you go. Jeez. Okay, we got 3 minutes. Just a couple more things. Sid just says, "I feel we lost the art of dealing. I love dealing double deck. Wow, that's cool." Company doesn't want to pay to train dealers on safety. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. You know how like baccarat is like handheld, right? Where you can like peel it and like so like do like your casinos hand out cards like to people like
Yeah.
like at the end of like the day like or whatever
Oh.
like the shoes like do they give away things at like other places? Because my last casino did and this one does not, even though like they get like hole punched or marked or whatever.
Yeah, not so much anymore. They used to. They
Yeah.
used to. But it's more about like whether the drill's working or not. So, and the other thing is like before, like when I was a games manager and we were giving away cards, it was just more to the charities so that they could have stuff. So they usually had priority, and we weren't charging either. So it didn't
Yeah,
really
that's
matter.
actually how like I got into the industry too. Was I was volunteering.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, as like the cash out page. So that was.
So what was it? Was it just watching like a dealer deal blackjack?
No, it was so weird because I just happened to be like in between jobs. Like I was 18, like I just graduated or whatever, and then like I was volunteering for like my brother for like Alberta snowboarding.
Okay.
And then I was there, and then like at the end of the night, I was just sitting on the floor. It was like 3 a.m. and I was like, I'm done. Like this is exhausting. And then the games manager came in and saw me sitting on the ground and was like, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he's like, "Yeah, I only have one interview question." And I said, "Okay." And then he said, "Did your float balance?" So he had asked the advisor, and she said, yeah. And then he said, okay, you're hired.
Wow.
And then I was in the blackjack training class like 2 weeks later.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
That is a cool question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll have to remember that. Okay, well, it is, wow, we did 2 hours. Incredible. Final shout outs, Danielle.
What?
Any final shout outs to your peeps? Anything that you wanted to?
Oh, yeah, sure. I think Carmen's in like our group watching. So hi, Carmen. Hope you're having fun in Quebec. And yeah, Zach, I mentioned you already. You're a cool dude.
And yeah, we'll have you on if you're available on the weekend, and you can
Yeah.
see if you can qualify. You know how the
Okay.
rules are, right?
Not really, but
Oh, so it's 8 hands of Pai Gow. You're gonna get $100. There's commission that they take away. You have to actually win money by the end of 8 hands.
okay.
So, yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
All right, John. Any final comments?
No, it's always great. I love this every week, and
Oh,
get
yeah.
to hang out with Jay. He was so cool, and it was really cool meeting you, Danielle.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Sorry, one more thing. Guys, the 23rd is going to be pretty good now, because I think we're getting like $200 in prizes already. So we're kind of getting up there, which is pretty cool. We're going to have like $100 giveaway for sure.
Nice.
Probably an Amazon gift card. So on the 23rd, Talking Crap's 20th episode special. So going to get a bunch of people on. John, that's the best photo of you there, I'll say.
That's my story about my friend Paul. On New Year's Eve.
Oh, yeah. So next week we'll have to revisit that story. There's another story you were supposed to tell us too, John. So
There's so many stories I'm supposed to say. I can't remember all of them.
That's okay. I have some notes, so we're gonna have to bring those ones out.
Okay.
All right. So thanks, John. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you guys for having me.
We'll have you on again. All right.
All right.
Okay, guys.
See you later,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks.